Good morning, everybody.
Morning.
Good morning.
Been having a good weekend so far? Oh, don't all up and tell me how good your weekend is. All right. So we had actually a lot of things go on over the last 3.5 weeks since our last meeting. Apple released the iOS 16, also released the new iPhone 14s. So we'll start off with our normal introduction today. Our steering committee. So Matt Canizio, Matt.
Hello, everybody.
David Day, who is probably enjoying the beach today. With
Beach.
spending that last weekend in before it gets too cold. Terry, I guess we should probably take Terry off the steering committee, but Terry Maros, of course, will be missed. Hopefully we'll be able to see him from time to time at our meetings. Marguerite Peterson. Good morning, Marguerite.
Morning.
Kieran. Jeanne Sparks. Jeanne didn't make it today. That's unusual.
Not on.
I'm George Wagner, and Bob Wilkson. This is our steering committee. This is the group of people that, if you have questions, if you have suggestions, if you have complaints, we prefer the first two, not the second, but we'll take them all. These are the people to talk to. We basically are trying to keep the meetings interesting, talk about things that everybody's interested in doing. If you've got ideas, please let us know. If you want to present, wonderful. If you don't feel comfortable presenting, we understand that. We can have somebody else take care of the presentation portion of it. Just let us know what you're interested in. All right. So iOS 16. iOS 16, they released a lot of neat features. And, I'm going to go through this, kind of the list of features. We'll discuss them a little bit. And there's a couple of features I'll talk more extensively about because I really enjoy them. This is the list of features that we'll be dealing with. They've added new capabilities in pretty much all of these aspects of the iOS. They did also announce that there'll be some additions to CarPlay coming later this year. I did not go into those because there's just so much other stuff to deal with today. Now,
George, your audio is not coming through too good.
Let me try. Tell me if
it's kind of low and fades in and out.
Is that working better?
That's working better.
I'm not getting any video other than the video individuals of everybody, but I'm not getting your full screen.
You have to go to gallery.
That's what I did. Which one do I click on? Standard. I'm not getting any. I mean, it's okay, but I'm not getting anything. Your full. I'm not getting, what your slides are.
Try side by side gallery.
Side by side. All right, let's give it a try. Wait a minute. Side by side gallery. That's where I am. And my screen is black except for pictures of everybody down the right-hand side. Well, don't worry. Whatever. It may be because I'm in a different world.
Ken, do you have that that slider button to the right of George's agenda picture? There's a white line that you can drag left or right.
I don't think he's seeing the agenda picture. That's the problem.
No, I'm not. My screen's blank except for pictures of everybody down the right-hand side. Don't worry about it. I'll just listen.
Ken, you should be able to go over to the right of where we're seeing George and me, among others. And there's a little thing that looks like a US flag. It says swap shared screen with video. Click on that.
Don't see it. Sorry.
Hey, Ken, what you might want to try just logging off, logging back in, see if your connection comes in better.
Yeah, let me do that. I'll be back. Y'all go ahead. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
All right, so first thing we're gonna start with is the lock screen. Now, you don't think too much about the lock screen, but Apple did add a lot of very neat things in the lock screen. On the lock screen, you can now choose to show photos from your photo library as your background lock screen. You can put widgets on there that can show calendar events, weather, um, timers, Facebook feeds, iMessage chats, email. I mean, there's a whole slew of different things that you can do. They've added a bunch of APIs, which whenever you see the word API, just think opened it up for developers to do stuff with it. So it really expands the capabilities. So real quick, go down the list here, the lock screen gallery. You can have multiple lock screens set up and switch between them. That's exactly lock screen switching. Very quickly, you press and hold on the lock screen and it comes up with all your options. Just switch over to the one you want, tap it, and it goes right back to it. Lock screen editing, any of the preset ones or any ones that you've already done, you can go in and modify. You can change the font that displays the time and date in. You can change the color. You can change the background. You can add widgets to do different things. It has the multi-layered photo effect, which is cool. It will automatically, when you go into your photos, it will suggest photos that you might want to use in there. And then you can have it shuffle them, and you can shuffle them on a time basis. Every time you unlock the phone, it's a different one, or every day it's a different one, which is kind of cool. The widgets on the screen right now is a handful of useful ones, but there's going to be a lot more as the third-party world gets into it, which is that widget kit API that you see listed there. That basically gives all the access to that functionality to developers. And while Apple does some phenomenal things, they've got some great people, they're a small number of people compared to how many developers are out there. And some of the things that these developers will think up are just going to really blow our minds. Live activities, if there's like sporting events that you're watching, you can actually have them updated on the screen, on your lock screen. And that, again, that API for that opens it up for developers to take full advantage of that. Lock screens made for focus is kind of cool. You can basically have a lock screen that is tied to when you're set your focus mode for work or personal, or when you're in a movie theater, and it will change the screen. And that's useful for a variety of reasons. One is you may want different things displayed on the screen. You may not want if you're at work, you may not want your personal stuff in the widgets. When you're at home, you may not want your work stuff in the widgets. Also, because it changes the screen, you know very quickly and very easily, oh, I'm in that focus mode. A lot of times people put on Do Not Disturb, but forget they put on Do Not Disturb. I have Do Not Disturb change my entire background so that I know at quick glance that Do Not Disturb is on. All right. So what else we got here? The Apple collections, basically Apple has a bunch of pre-made ones, the dynamic screens, classic screens, landscapes. They're created specifically for this. And there's some really beautiful ones in there. The astronomy, they have one that's it's the galaxy, and then you can kind of swipe and zoom in on Earth, the moon, and different angle on it. It's kind of cool. Astronomy, one of the widgets you can do is basically showing the phases of the moon, solar system setup, and then we'll update live conditions. The weather also can be right there at a glance on your lock screen. Emojis, you have pattern lock screens based on your favorite emojis, which is kind of cool. You can change the colors of the text and the backgrounds. And then the now playing can tie in with the live action, so that basically if you're looking at movies, TV shows, and then they've updated the notification design so it has bold text and images in the notification, so they'll stand out a little more. So a lot of times you have notifications that you need that kind of get lost in the shuffle. Notification animations. And then also you can see the notifications on the lock screen. You can choose how you want to view it, whether you want the short view or the more detailed view. Anybody have any questions on any of the things in here? I went through a lot of stuff on there. Yeah. All right, so now we're going to deal with the focus modes.
Oh,
Is
gee.
everybody familiar with focus modes?
Yeah, a little bit.
George, the weather app on the iOS 16, they bought dark sky about a year ago. And so they're phasing out dark sky and incorporating dark sky into the new weather app on iOS 16.
Yeah,
And dark sky is going to fade out in January 23. There would be no longer dark sky, it would be the weather app.
yeah, I heard about that, and they've been kind of doing it, phasing it in over time. They've added some neat features every version. So, is everyone familiar with focus modes?
No,
Yeah.
Focus modes. Are you familiar with Do Not Disturb? The function that Do Not Disturb did. It's basically what they've taken Do Not Disturb and they've expanded it. Now it's called focus modes, where basically before you could say, okay, don't bother me, I'm doing something, or I'm in the car, don't bother me, that type of thing. It was pretty much a yes or no situation. Focus modes gives you the ability to create a filtered list of those the apps, people that you want to allow to see their notifications. You'll get the messages of everybody, but the notifications that come up, your bells and whistles that you've chosen for your different notifications will only ring for those people that you have chosen to put into that focus mode. So for example, when you're at work, you may want to have most of your personal people on a quiet Do Not Disturb, except for certain family members. And then if everything you're doing for work will come through, but your personal stuff will basically be in the background, but won't be bing, 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 bing constantly. When you're at home, quite the opposite. You might want your personal stuff and not your work stuff. And in iOS 16, they've kind of expanded that. You can now, link the locked screen to a focus mode. So when you activate the focus mode, it will also activate the lock screen, or vice versa. If you activate that lock screen, it will activate the focus mode. It has lock screen suggestions. So if you have a particular focus mode selected, like for work, it will have a set of default widgets for it. All of those are editable, and you can change those. Same with home page suggestions. And then the focus filter basically lets you set up boundaries within like Apple's Mail, or Calendar, or Messages, Safari, so that you can choose a set of tab groups to show up in Safari, for example, or hide your work calendar when you're using personal, or vice versa. So they're basically taking the focus modes a step further with this. They've also released an API for developers, so we'll see a lot more access to granular controls within some of the apps that you may use. They've added a ability to set schedules, so you can automatically at a set time or location have a focus mode turn on or turn off. They streamlined the setup of focus modes to make it a little easier. And they have two options. They have an allow or a silence. So you can basically choose to have a list of apps that you can allow. You can also go the opposite way and say, okay, I want these apps to be silent, or these people to be silent. Can we get that in real life? Because I have some people I'd like to. Never mind. So focus modes, once you get to them, can be very, very useful. I've been playing with them, and I'm only scratching the surface, and I'm getting a lot of use out of it. Like when I'm somewhere with family, I'll have basically only my those emergency contacts and family come through, and the other messages will basically just, they'll be there if I look for them, but won't be in my face. All right, any questions on focus? Okay. Next we have messages. Messages, they've added some very useful things. For once, we can now edit a message after you sent it. You have up to 15 minutes in which you can go back in and edit. Now, the person who receives the message can view all of the edits if they choose to. If you have somebody who's using an older iPhone that doesn't have the new messages, or using an Android, they will see all the edited messages. They'll each come through. So it's basically most effective on people who are using the new messages on an Apple product. Undo will let you unsend a message up to 2 minutes after sending it. So you can, change your mind on that yelling message you sent to your boss. Mark as unread. This is very useful because a lot of times you'll read a message, can't really do anything right now about it. But if you don't see it, as needing to be read, you'll forget about it. So you mark it as read, so it comes up on your list, and oh, there's a new message, and you read it. So, oh yeah, that's the message I need to deal with. So that can be very useful. I do that a lot of times with email messages, or email messages. So it's very useful to have that in messages as well. They've added an ability to recover recently deleted messages, similar to what they do in Photos. Is when you delete a message, it goes into a folder to be deleted 30 days later. So unless you go in and do a second deletion, it will still be there for up to 30 days. Share play via message. If you use share play at all, it lets you basically share what you're watching with other people, share websites and such. And now they've added that to work within messages, so you can basically watch movies and listen to music and do different things simultaneous with friends across the messaging platform. Okay. Shared with you is where you basically sharing websites and such with people, and they added an API to basically expand that for developers. Collaboration. Most of us here probably aren't doing much with the collaboration, but that basically is allowing people to work simultaneously on the same item across their devices. More commonly done in a work environment. And then the updating, if somebody makes a change, you'll get a message that you have an update to it. And again, an API to expand that functionality to developers so they can run with it. Tapbacks, when you have those little thumbs up and haha and response to a message, the problem that you have is that it works great for iMessage users, but not so much for Android users who are using SMS message. So they've kind of tried to improve that so that they'll appear better in non-iOS or non-iMessage conversations. Dual SIM message filtering. For anybody who has more than one SIM, that means they have 2 lines on one phone. They've now given you the ability to filter messages accordingly. So you can say, okay, let me just look at all the messages coming in from my work number versus my personal number. Okay. And then audio message playback, you can fast forward and rewind audio messages as you listen, which is really nice. I have a couple of people who like sending me really long messages, and if I miss something, I have to listen to the whole message all over again. So that I'm happy about that feature. All right, any questions about messages?
George, with these new features about editing, undoing, et cetera, does that mean that, right now you send a message, it goes, it's not going to go. So we're not going to have instant messaging between people anymore?
Well, no, so keep in mind, because messages is Apple's platform, they have control of both sides of the conversation. So whereas I send a message to you, you receive the message, okay? I make a change to it. That change is then sent to your message to modify it. Now, keep in mind, any thing that I sent you, it's there. You can look at that message and say, hey, let me look at the edits to this message. And you can see all the changes that have been made to that message. So it's not like I can say something and then reverse it and say, oh, no, prove I said that. Anything I sent you is still sent to you.
Mhm. So it's still an instantaneous send to
Yes.
the recipient.
But
Okay.
on the recipient side, for up to 15 minutes, I can make changes to that message.
Okay, all right.
Yeah. It's similar. If you remember, AOL had, for the longest time, had all these really neat features that they could do in their messages in the chat that you couldn't do in normal chat. And that's because both people were on the same platform. When you have that, you have a lot more control because you're not by a standard that you have to deal with. You can create that standard, and that's what they've done here. Similar with the unsend. If it's, I believe, if the message has not been read on the other side, the unsend will basically remove it, and you'll just see a message that a message was unsent.
Right. Thank you.
Not a problem. Any other questions?
Got a
George?
question?
Yeah.
Can you delete a message or text in a thread? Just a single message or two in a thread, or do you have to delete the whole thread?
That's right.
No, this is this is individual messages.
Okay,
So yeah, you're basically just basically deleting a message. That was it. And keep in mind, you could always delete your side of the conversation, but it was still gone. It was still on the other person's list. What this is doing for 2 minutes, I can delete it on both sides of the conversation.
all right, because I've got, let's say 50 messages from a certain group of people, and then there's some messages that seem to be unrelated to what the topic was. And how do I delete those messages that I'd like to delete out of the thread? How does that done?
You doing this on an iOS device or on the Mac?
On the iOS,
If you press and hold on a message,
yeah,
okay, you'll get a couple of options. I think copy and what's the other one? But there's also a more option. If you use more, you will then also all of a sudden get dots next to each message that you can then select each of those messages and then delete them if you want. Again, it's only deleting your side. It's not deleting the message, the conversation part of it. It's just deleting your record of it.
okay. All right, thank you.
You're welcome.
George, how do I share messages between my phone and my iMac?
Well, if both are logged into your Apple ID, it will do that automatically. Now, if the conversation is coming from somebody who does not have an product on your phone, in the settings under messages, make sure you have text message forwarding turned on. That way it would send the non-Apple messages as well.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, because the Apple messages, as long as you're in the Apple ID, your device will get it directly. But SMS messages are only going to your phone, and so that text message forwarding is the only way to get it to your other devices. And when you do that, you can select which devices that you're connected to via your Apple ID that you want to send to. So if you choose to, you can send just to the computer, or you say just send it to my computer, my iPad, whatever other devices you got. All right.
I have some questions.
Yes.
Wait a minute. What do you mean by, oh,
I see. I made a editing error here. There we go. That was the uh-oh.
you said,
Timing on that was not the best.
yeah, well, I'll remember that, George. You said you can delete messages, but they're still in there like on photos. How can you clean out the deleted box of messages?
If you go into the recently deleted folder, all those messages are there. If you select them in there and delete them again, they're gone.
I never knew I had a recently deleted folder in messages.
You did iOS 16.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
When you say you can undelete a message, the people I message with get it instantaneously because I get the delivery receipt thing instantly. If I undelete a message that I send to someone immediately, is it gone from their device?
If they haven't read it, I believe it is.
So what's the purpose of undelete unless you have, if it says red, it's done.
If it says red, they've seen it, yes. I think,
Then you can't undelete that.
to be honest with you, I haven't played with it enough to know for sure. But I think you can. It's possible that, I don't, 2 minutes is a long time for it to not send it, so it's got to have sent it. So I'm not sure how it'll appear on the other person's side. They will see, I believe no matter what happens, they will see an indication that a message was sent and deleted. Whether they've read it or not, I don't know. I think it still could be deleted, but if they've read it, then they've read it.
And the edit option is available for what, 30 minutes, you say?
15
minutes.
15 minutes.
Okay.
And again, the important takeaway from that is it's basically to fix typos and make it look nicer. If somebody's doing something, not quite on the up and up, all the edits are visible. So it's not like I can send you a message and then change it and say, oh, look, see, this is the one I sent you, because you could see the original message and the edited message. Yeah, but that won't appear unless you choose to see it, unless you're on a non-iOS device, which will then basically you'll see every version that's sent.
I'd like to go back to the introduction part. We have a guest that wasn't mentioned, and she's off video right this minute, but I see she's active on chat. You might want to mention this lady whose name you gave me.
Oh, yes.
There she is.
Good morning. How you doing?
Hi.
Lois, right?
Catherine.
Catherine. Oh, sorry, Catherine. Good morning, Catherine. So have we lost you yet in our presentation? We got going through a lot of this stuff today.
Yeah,
I just wrote to Matthew.
yeah, I
and
just read it. I don't know why she picked me.
you're
Friendly face.
You're the person for suggestions or questions.
Yeah.
So I am such a novice at all of this. I mean, I can do messaging, texting, but that's about it. And my computer I'm just basic. So everything that you say, it just kind of goes over my head. If it was, you clicking on each of these things, showing me, showing what it does and what you're talking about, I could probably follow it because I'm a pretty smart gal. But
and we may do some of that on some of these things down the road, but right now it's kind of a data dump. They just released the whole thing. There's all these neat new things. I am going to point out a couple of things that you can play with that I enjoy and get a lot of use out of. We'll get to that in just a little bit, but there's one new feature in iOS 16 and then a feature in iOS 15 that I use all the time that I'll talk about a little. I think you might find very helpful.
Mhm.
Okay.
The other thing, if you're comfortable using YouTube,
There you go.
yeah,
you'll be able to find people presenting YouTube videos on absolutely every aspect of not only, of course, the Apple world, but anything in the world. So if a feature comes up or we're talking about something and you're saying to yourself, I've never even looked at a photo before on my computer. How do I look at the photos? There'll be somebody with a YouTube video that'll do everything about photos.
Yeah.
Everything. I use it for absolutely everything, fixing my garage door besides the computer, absolutely everything. Millions and millions, maybe billions of people make these videos. And that's my primary way of learning because I know it's always out there. I can go back, run the video 2 or 3 times if I'm slow picking up on it.
yeah. Thanks for reminding me of that. Matt.
That's it. Yeah.
And there are so many people doing these texts on some of the same topics. Find somebody who speaks in a manner that's comfortable to you, that's at your pace, that their voice isn't annoying, that they don't do weird things that bother you, that you're comfortable watching.
Yeah.
And then subscribe to the channel because that will focus on the ones that they do because you feel comfortable with them. And there's There's nothing wrong with somebody being flamboyant or whatever, but some people like it, some people don't. You just find that presenter who hits you most comfortably.
Okay.
Catherine, one of the things that I think you might find helpful is Mac Most. He does videos on many, many things, and it's also transcribed. So if you can't follow his video, then it is also transcribed and you can read it. And I know I have found that very helpful in the past.
Thank you, Marguerite.
And also keep in mind that a lot of what we're doing today is going to bring up topics that you can say, ooh, that sounds interesting. How do I do that? And you can either, ask somebody or look that particular thing up on YouTube. Because right now it's just, there's so many neat new things that we wouldn't have time to do all of them today. But if there are some things that you want to know more of, let one of us know and we can set that up at a future meeting to go in more in depth into some of the topics.
Okay, thank you.
Well, let me ask a question since I'm a newbie here too. I'm putting together an extensive course up at the university using Keynote. I've used the PC version before, but for instance, I sort of need a basic introduction, a full scale introduction to things like for instance, how to crop and that sort of thing. Anybody got a good introduction to Keynote? Is there a particular channel I should be going into that you like more than others? Anyway,
I would redirect you again to Mac Most and search his website, his YouTube site, and I'm sure he's got stuff on there for Keynote.
Okay, Marguerite, Most, how is Most spelled?
It's Mac Most. It's Mac Most.
M-O-S-T?
MACMOST.
Gotcha. Okay, thanks, Marguerite.
And if Ken would wake up, he could confirm that that's a good source.
Whom did you say was? What name did you use?
I'm sorry, Ken Gassman has been using Mac Most, and he finds it helpful too.
Yeah.
Okay,
Very helpful.
okay, very good.
Bill, the only suggestion I have,
Yeah,
tongue in cheek, because I used to watch Mac Most for everything. I have to have at least 1 or 2 cups of coffee just to follow the guy.
okay.
He's encyclopedic knowledge, but he goes a little too fast. Marguerite mentioned there's a transcript, but yeah, he knows everything. If something comes out, a new release or something, for instance, he will push every button and every option that could possibly happen. He really is a great source. He has a community of quite a large people. They're patron supporters. He's probably one of the most viewed people there on YouTube in terms of Apple
Well,
stuff.
thank you. I think you've helped me this morning. I have to create 200 to 300 slides.
Oh boy.
I volunteered to do a course, and you can everybody sign up, but it's the physics and history of the wheel over the last 5,000 years.
You know, I've been thinking about that recently. Thanks.
I knew you would, Matt. But it is an interesting subject. I have because of a book that came out recently, and I'm a stand-up former college professor, and I like to talk to people. So they've given me a class, get this, of 80 people up at the Lifelong Learning Center, otherwise called OLLI. And I'm going to do 4 classes for an hour and a half. And among other things, one of the subtopics is unrideable bicycles.
Yeah.
You probably didn't know too much about it, but when physicists get together, they find out that they don't know as much about why a bicycle works as you might think. And people always need publications. So it was quite a hot topic during the 1980s when I was still teaching. Unrideable bicycles, bicycles without gyroscopic action from the wheels.
There you go.
But anyway, I'll give you a front end. It's it used to be called the North Carolina Center for Creative Retirement. How's that for a mouthful? And now it's just called OLLI. It's a special section of the university. You do have to pay an annual month joining fee, and they do charge you for courses. But it's typically in the order, I think my particular course, they're charging $80 for 4 lectures from Fantastic Me. I don't get paid anything, by the way, except I can take a few courses for free. But anyway, it's an area where I find a lot of interesting intellectual people that are interested in, quote, lifelong learning. So now I've said my part. Okay.
All right. So, all right. So back to the boring stuff. Actually, the mail, they've added a lot of features that I think people will find very useful. If you do anything with the smart searches, they've added where basically there's the auto correcting within your search, and we'll use some of the information about what you are commonly doing, helps make suggestions for smart searches. If you are sending an email, it can detect if you're missing recipients and attachments and let you know, give you a heads up on those. The undo send basically will basically let you undo a message before it gets to the inbox of the other person. So I'm not sure how long of a time frame you have, but if you can, it will get it before it actually arrives. The scheduled send, for those of us who like being up in the wee hours of the morning, sending an email at that time sometimes can bother people if they haven't put their do not disturb on and they get the nice little notification that they got an email. So you can schedule it where you can do your work at 2 o'clock in the morning, but have it send it at 8 a.m. or 9 a.m., which is nice.
All right.
It has a follow-up feature, which I've actually seen where you have a conversation with somebody maybe about scheduling a meeting, and you've sent a reply but didn't get anything back from them, and it basically brings that message back up and says, hey, do you want to follow up on this? So it's actually pretty nice to kind of remind you that you have something that you need to deal with. The remind me function, basically you can set an email to come back and come into your inbox again, like tomorrow or an hour or a couple hours, so that you can make sure that you don't forget that topic. Because a lot of times things come in at the wrong time. They've added rich text, a rich link to your messages, so you can basically get more context about it right in the message. You'll see the information. Now this last one is one that you're going to say, huh? BIMI support. And what this is basically it's a standard that is being used for brand identification, so that if you get something from Bank of America with this support, you'll know it's from Bank of America. And so it's going to help reduce the spams and the phishing and the fraud emails. And that actually, let me make a statement here. I've run into 2 clients that have had issues with fraudulent emails that they fell for, and one cost them a lot of money. The other almost cost them a lot of money. The only thing that saved them was that the Bitcoin machine didn't read the code that they were sent. Okay. Couple of just basic things that you need to check. If you get an email and you think it's from somebody, look at the email address, not the name, but the email address. Every email address has a label where you can say, instead of my gwagner@me.com, it says George Wagner. I can say anything in that George Wagner. I can even put an email address as my label. So I could say, tcook@apple.com. And so all of a sudden, my emails look like they're coming from Tim Cook. But when you look at the actual email underneath that, you'll see where it's coming from. So if you get something from Apple or Bank of America or Wells Fargo or anybody, you check to see if the email comes in with a apple.com or bankofamerica.com or wellsfargo.com. If it's anything other than those, it is not coming from those companies.
George, a lot of people don't know how to find that email address, and it's so easy if you know.
Yep.
Just tell them how to get there.
Okay. On the iOS devices, if you tap at the top of the message where the from and the to are, it'll turn the to message or the to label blue. If you tap it again, you will see the email address that is actually coming in. Okay. On the computer, if you put the arrow on the email address and don't click on it, it'll pop up a little tooltip will show the email address. Okay. That email address is what you would look for. No matter what it is, it's going to end in .com, .gov, .edu. Whatever's right before that is the domain. If there's something in between that .com and Apple, then it's not from Apple, because that only the thing directly to the left of the .com, .gov, .edu is the domain. So if it says, for example, apple.e.com, the domain is E. So that's not coming from Apple. So you just always want to just make sure that it's coming from who you think it's coming from. If there is a link in an email, unless it's a password reset or a verification link that you requested, don't click on the link.
Never.
If you email address or the email is legitimate, manually go to whoever it is, Bank of America, Apple, whatever, and log in. Because if you click on the link, there's no guarantee you're going to Bank of America's website. You may be going to a fake website that looks like Bank of America. And as soon as you go to log in, you have now given them your login for Bank of America. Okay. Secondly, no government agency will ever ask you to pay them in Bitcoin or gift cards. Okay. So don't ever do that. In fact, nobody's going to ask you for Bitcoin or gift cards for payment. So just don't do it. I've also seen Facebook messages from people that I know that say, "Hey, I'm somewhere I can't really do this. Can you get a gift card for me and send it to somebody?" And it sounds legit because it's somebody but it's not. So be aware. If in doubt, assume it's not legit. Okay. If you have somebody that knows a little bit about this kind of stuff, ask them. If you don't, ask me, ask one of the members on our steering committee. We're more than happy to help. We don't want anybody to run into this kind of stuff. It is just not, it's not good. And I've had too many people, and we're talking, these are not people that are not familiar. They're very tech savvy. They just got caught by somebody who's believable. And remember, the nicest people you'll ever meet will be con men. They're good at what they do. The reason they're good is because the people believe them. The weakest part of our security system in our technology is us. We can override pretty much any of the security that Apple or anybody puts in. So we have to make sure that we are vigilant in that. All right. Soapbox goes away.
I'd like to add something to that, George. We recently in my neighborhood received an email from one of our own neighbors who's not terribly savvy. It was her email address, her real email address. It turned out to be a spam. I don't know how they're able to get her real email address into that copy. And again, I would suggest if you have any questions along those lines, the question was, did you get my email? And I answered, and it was spam.
Mm-hmm.
Write your own new message to that person and say, did you just send me an email? I don't know, the hackers are able to put a valid email address into the spam message now.
Well, also keep in mind that sometimes there's slight misspelling or hidden characters that they can put in places that make it look like one thing, but it's not. Also, what was I going to say? There's something that popped up there. Yeah, it'll come later.
Hmm.
People are sneaky, and it's frustrating beyond words. And also, you know, the new email, excellent tip. You know, reply is easy, but sometimes you don't want to reply. Oh, I remember what I wanted to say. Hey, I say I'm going to put the mute on because my train's coming by. Okay, train is go down. All right, unsubscribe. Sounds wonderful. Don't use it. Okay. The only time you should ever unsubscribe is if you know you subscribed to it. Because if you get something that has an unsubscribe button on it and you never subscribe to it, and you're like, why am I getting this over? Let me unsubscribe. All you're doing is telling the spammer they have a good email. And you're probably going to get more stuff because of it. If you're getting stuff that you don't want, mark it as junk. As you start marking things as junk, it starts creating a profile that can then predict incoming email is going to be spam or not. A lot of people get frustrated because it's not a light switch. It won't happen immediately because Apple and all the companies who do email want to make sure that they're not grabbing things they shouldn't be grabbing. So they err on the side of caution. So it's going to take multiple times of you saying, this is junk, this is junk, this is junk, before it starts saying, oh, that's junk. Okay. Because it can't really go by email because half the time the email address is not the same. It can't go by subject because you know, pull something out of the subject, but you know, sometimes you're going to have one that says, hey, regarding that invoice, you know, sometimes that's going to be spam. But the best thing you can do is the junk mail. You'll also might be noticing that Apple has in messages a report junk. When you delete it, it'll say it'll ask you if it's junk. So what that means is that they are putting together a spam filter for messages. I don't know about you, but I've been getting a lot of text messages. And, hey, check out this app.
Hmm.
Hey, is this you? Yeah.
George, where is that? Where's the
When
messages junk thing?
basically whenever I've deleted a message, it said report junk. Or if you get one that it thinks might be junk, there'll be a little button at the bottom that says report junk.
I'll check it out. I'm getting political junk as of this morning. I even got some.
Oh yeah, it's that time of year.
I've got a question for you, George.
Sure.
I use a Firefox mail program, and when there are things, and when a spam comes in, it says, I get to right here. It says mark as spam and unsubscribe. And should I not be using that button? It's up at the top of the Firefox mail program.
Apple has a similar button. Don't use unsubscribe unless you know you subscribed to it.
Okay, I hear you.
Hmm.
It's something because it hasn't worked very well recently anyway.
Yeah, and that's just for a lot of these messages, it's not designed to. It's designed to actually help them determine whether or not the email they're using is a valid one.
Okay. All right. Well, speaking of spam, I've gotten 2 spam calls recently. This is public service, or whatever you call your power company down here, Duke Energy, and your power is going to be cut off in 1 hour, unless you pay us in some fashion or other. I just can't believe how stupid these spam calls are.
Um,
Anybody else gotten those calls recently?
No.
Okay,
one feature that I do use and love,
yeah,
Apple introduced a while ago in the settings under the phone options, there's a silence unknown callers.
Oh,
If you have called a number, or if they're in your contacts, it'll ring through normal. But if it's a number that you have never called and it's not in your contacts, it goes straight to voicemail. If it's important, they'll leave a voicemail. You call them
Right.
back, great. But you don't get the phone doesn't ring.
George, I use that, and I get those types of calls every single day. I didn't realize that it shot them over to to voicemail. Of course, they never leave a voice message, but you put my mind at ease, because once in a while there are people that are valid people, and I guess they don't leave one, but they're getting the option to leave the voicemail. All right.
Yeah. You will see the missed calls.
Oh, no, I see it all the time, but again, what I do is I check the voicemail, but I didn't realize that they were gonna automatically be directed there.
Yeah. And if you call them at any point, they are now put in a list of, okay, that one's good to come
Okay.
through.
Yeah.
'Cause I called the doctor's office, and then it came back and came through. And then I called a different doctor's office, and the number that they called back on was different, and it didn't come through.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
Some of the companies I deal with, like the heating and cooling, they seem to have multiple numbers when they call to make appointments and stuff like that.
Yeah, they have a main number that you call, and it goes into all these other numbers, but
Right.
they call out. Sometimes it's that main number that is displayed, not their number.
yes.
Yeah.
Well, I have high regard for a program called Nomo Robo, and it's $17 a year, but it has significantly cut down my spam phone calls. Nomo Robo.
There's actually one, I don't remember the name of it, but it goes, it basically uses artificial intelligence to have a conversation with the person at the other end, and they'll record it, and you can listen to it if you want to have some fun. And the person on the other end doesn't know at first that they're talking to the computer. So they have a conversation for a good few minutes.
Mhm.
Finally pick up the fact that they're not talking to a real person, and they'll hang up. But whoever wrote that just wanted to have some fun with them, waste their time. All right, so let's see. Any other questions on mail? Okay. Next, we're going to go into Safari. The shared tabs group is really neat. I put my financial websites in a shared tab, and so basically, whenever I want to do those, I just go to that tab. They're there, wait for me, and boom, boom, boom. But they're not in my rotation of tabs in my normal web browsing. So it kind of keeps them separate. I like that. It makes it easier to find them. If you have a whole bunch of tabs open and one of them is your banking tab, you got to look at them all and find it on the screen and get to it, or use the search to get to it. It just takes extra time. This way, I just go right to shared tabs, both finances, and boom, there it is. And then tab group start pages basically lets you have dedicated pages depending, and they'll come up with a customized background and favorites and such. So this gives you a little more flexibility. You can pin tabs into a tab group. So if you have enough of them, you can pin those to the top of the list. Make it easier to get to those, the more important ones. And again, API again. So the web extensions API lets the developers create some really cool things. They've added some more push notifications, some web-based services. Extension syncing lets you see all the extensions you have on all your different devices, and then basically allow all the different ones to sync together so that you have the same set on all your browsers on all your devices. Added more languages. Let's see, web page translations, which is cool. And then they also have the live text in images. That's one of the things I was going to deal with a little bit later, but I'll talk about it right now. Is everyone familiar with live text?
Mhm.
Anybody not familiar with it? So live text, you ever have somebody send you a picture of like a screenshot of information. You're like, oh, I really wish I had that address that I could just click on or copy and paste. Now you can. It automatically detects text in an image, converts it to text, which you can highlight and copy. If it's a recognizable link or email or phone number, you just click on it and it will respond accordingly. So you make a phone call right from that phone number in that graphic ad that they have on the page. So it really is very handy. What they've done now is that they've added that to Safari. Before, you could do it if you had the image on your phone, or if you were using your phone to look at an image. But now if there's an image on a web page that has that, it gives you the ability to click on it and boom, go right there, make a phone call, go to another link, do an email, whatever. So that is really going to be very helpful. Okay. They've added some additional support for newer protocols that are out on the web. Excuse me. Added some strong password editing to basically adjust for site-specific requirements, make it easier for you to create passwords for different sites that you go to. Okay. And then also Wi-Fi passwords are saved in your settings. So you basically, when you're going to different locations a lot, like on a laptop or a tablet, you basically have the Wi-Fi settings saved there. So it makes it easier to transition from one location to another. And you can edit those in the preferences. Excuse me. So of all those, my favorite is the whole adding the live text functionality to the images in Safari. I think that's going to add a lot of useful features. Any questions about those? Okay. This next one is really important, but kind of boring. Passkeys are basically going to be replacing passwords, making it easier and safer to sign in. It never, basically, these are things that will never leave your device. They're specific to the app that you're in and the site that you created them on. So it's basically going to make it very almost impossible for somebody to phish and get that information from you. Okay. It's also safe from website leaks that happen periodically. And then you also can use that to sign in on other devices, and they sync across all your devices that are tied to your Apple ID. So basically, they're making it much stronger and harder to break into the password that you're going to be using. So it's one of those things. Anything they can do to help with that is great, but it is kind of boring. So we'll move on. Anybody have any questions before we move on past that? Okay. Live text 6. This is the biggie. This is the one that lets you grab the text out of images. Well, it also now lets you take text out of videos. If you have a video, if you pause the video and there's text on the screen, it will identify that text and let you grab it. So that I think is really, really going to be useful. Data detection in photos and videos also means that if you have an email address, you just click on it, it will open up the email program. If you click on a link, it'll go to the web browser. If you click on a phone number, it'll go to the phone. So it basically lets you automatically deal with recognizable pieces of information. And then they've added more languages, which doesn't affect us too much, but there's more people going to be using it. Excuse me. Siri. I love Siri. Siri's my friend. Basically, they've added shortcut support, so you can basically run shortcuts from apps with without actually having set anything up, which is cool. You can enable Siri to automatically send messages when you. A lot of times when you're dictating a message to Siri, she'll then read it back to you, say, "Is it okay to send it?" And you have to say yes. And this way, you can say, "Once I send, just send it." You know. I guess since we can edit them now, it figures we don't have to check. They've made it easier for us to verbally add emojis into texts. If you have the phrase Siri, what can I do here, is basically going to be location specific things. So if you're on vacation, hey, what can we do here? It will tap into what's around you. It'll tap into the app store that'll have location specific apps that may be available. Okay. All right. And then also it has things you can ask about specific apps that you may have. So what can I do with this app or that app? And it will give you a list of what Siri is capable of doing. Basically, you can tell Siri to hang up the phone. So that's hands-free. Hanging up the phone is kind of nice. That's actually very handy.
What did you say? Siri to do what? Answer the phone?
You can hang up the phone.
Oh,
We've got a call.
Hang it, yeah.
Yeah. And what's nice about that is I've had times where I'm driving and somebody, ends the conversation, but doesn't hang up their phone.
Hmm.
Then I have to, reach down and hang up the phone. This way I can just tell Siri to hang up the phone. Expanded offline support is very important. If you're somewhere where you don't have a good signal, you want to still be able to use Siri. And so there's a lot of functionality that will be available offline. So that's definitely very useful as well, because I go a lot of areas I go to in these winding roads. I don't have signal, so definitely want to have some functionality at least. Okay. Dictation, which is kind of related to Siri. They've added basically the ability to combine dictation and typing. I've done this a couple of times where I've been dictating and it did a word wrong, and I corrected the word, but it doesn't leave dictation. It used to drop you out of dictation when you did that. Then you had to start dictation again from that point on. This way, you can basically correct it on the fly without having to go back into it. It makes it much more streamlined, much more fluid. Auto punctuation. I like this. Basically, it's going to predict by what you're saying and how you're saying things, that it can put some punctuation in there. It may not be perfect, but it definitely will save you a lot of time. And again, the emoji support, being able to do emojis by voice. You have dictation in the messages field, which is weird. That was always available. Yeah. And then you've got dictation popover, which you can easily stop dictation by tapping on the little popover that comes up.
George, with the emoji support, you're dictating something, and then what do you say? Do you say like emoji chicken, like you want to have a picture of a chicken, or do you do it in the reverse? You say the word and then say emoji afterwards.
Actually, I have to play with it. I haven't.
Okay. Because that's something I would use a lot. I use a lot of emojis, and I go to the emoji keyboard and go back again.
Yeah, anything that improves dictation is a good.
Yeah.
Now maps. The last two I don't care about. I don't do much with transit fees and transit cards, but for those people who do, it's nice to have those built in. But this first one, I like this.
Yeah.
I've actually been asking for this for a long time.
Yep.
What this means is that you are on a trip. You decide you want to stop to eat. You can say, okay, let's add a stop to the trip we're on, the path we're on. Don't stop, telling me how to get to here. Okay. But what I want you to do is also tell me, hey, we're gonna stop over here, have dinner. So it tells me to do dinner, then it will continue on back to where we were. Or if you want to do plan out a more involved trip, you can say, okay, we're gonna go to Greenville for this, and we're gonna go to Charlotte for this, and we go down to Myrtle Beach. And then you have all that in one map trip. And you can add those at any point. You don't have to add them at the beginning of the trip. You come in halfway through and decide you want to stop for gas or meal or sauce for for some activity, you can put that in there. And what's nice is when you reach that first stop, you then have the option to go to proceed to the next stop or to pause because you're gonna be doing something there. I like that feature a lot. It's also nice if you're on a path already and then you click on an address somewhere, it'll go in there and add it to the existing travel. So if you go to like Yelp and look up something, oh yeah, we're gonna go there, and you click on it, adds it in the map. It did a pretty good job with it. I've only found a couple of things that I've stumbled over. Didn't want it to add it. How to get it to click on it and replace it without having to do a couple of things. So far, I haven't found that quite yet, but I'll find it a little longer.
George, which route finding program are you using?
I use Apple.
Apple, okay.
Apple Maps, yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Apple
Well, I've used Waze, and the thing I like about Waze is it coordinates all the other drivers on the road, and you find things along the edge and that sort of thing.
So does Apple Maps.
Okay.
It will tell you about construction, about accidents, speed checks, traffic jams.
I guess I haven't used Apple Maps enough, but I certainly have a hell of a problem with I-26, I'll tell you that.
I used to use Waze all the time, and then Google bought it, and they added a lot of advertising, which wouldn't be so bad, except for they added a video ad to Waze, my navigation app.
Yeah. Okay.
Like, and I said, I'm done. I said that no. I was fine with the other stuff, but no, video ad on a navigation app while driving, I don't think so. All right. Apple Pay. They've added a feature called Apple Pay Later, which basically lets you pay the person off in payments, 4 payments over 6 weeks with no interest or fees, which is kind of cool.
George, I don't think they've implemented that.
Really?
Yeah, I
Was
think I read an article or saw one of the techie people talking about it. It's been postponed for a couple months. They've got some bugs in it, so the features doesn't work.
website?
It's turned out to be more complicated than they thought, or something.
Always is.
I've got a quick question.
Yeah.
I drive once a year. I drive back and forth to New Hampshire, and that means I have a few road tolls that in New York State in particular, I can't get across the Hudson River without going across.
Right.
And then 3 months later, I get a notice in the mail that I've gone through that one thing, and they've put not only have they put a fee in there, but they told me I've been late in paying it. So going across the Kingston Bridge, it frequently costs me $10 to $15. And I would love to have with that, I could get a New York State transponder, but you have to give them $30 in advance, and I only use it once or twice a year. Anyway, that would be an area that I would love to have it so it works better than what it works for me. And I don't know whether any of the others of you have travel where you go across a toll area just once in a while, but they're awful slow in sending out the bills too. Anybody else have that problem? Guess
I
not.
never leave my house.
Oh,
I've run that on a couple of occasions. I've done areas where they don't have, or they'll basically read your license plate.
that's right. They read your license plate, but then they take 3 to 4 months to send you a letter and then tell you they're giving you a penalty because you didn't pay it sooner.
Hey, yeah.
So anyway, that's the problem going into New England. I used to, of course, have a transponder. By the way, those transponders have batteries in them, and you cannot change them yourself, and they don't tell you when the battery runs down. So in the last days of using a transponder for New England, I didn't know that my transponder wasn't working. And so then I got a great big penalty for driving without a transponder. I got a $50 fine for that one. And I didn't know it wasn't working. So anyway, if there were some way with a transponder, you could figure out when it isn't working, it'd be really nice.
Well, that's not anything that Apple's going to be able to deal with. I don't think that's going to be the.
Yeah, that part of it, but the part of paying in other systems. I mean, few of us here go down to Florida. I don't, but they have toll roads down there. And unless you want to buy a transponder for Florida, I believe you get stuck in the same way.
Yeah. But again, I don't know. I don't think that's anything that we're going to be able to deal with here, because that's going to be all different technologies.
Yeah, well, it'd be something to suggest to Tim Cook.
Well, Apple has a feedback page. Just go to apple.com/feedback, and you can suggestions and such. And I've gotten responses from that sometimes, so they do listen. Okay, so one of the things that you have are a lot of places are using the electronic keys. And so now you can actually share the keys within the wallet to people you trust. You do that in messaging apps, email, WhatsApp, that type of thing. So you can basically share those keys with people without fear of that information getting out in the wild. Then also, there's some car companies that are also doing that now too. So you can actually use your phone or your watch to unlock your car. ID cards are now becoming more acceptable in electronic form. And so you can basically have your ID card stored in your wallet, but the app that needs it can display it in the app. So it just makes it a little more streamlined, a little easier to use.
Let me ask a quick question. How many places take Apple Pay these days?
A lot.
A lot.
Because I've gone to a number of places. I don't have it, by the way, but can you recognize when a place takes Apple Pay? Because I have a place, an outlet.
Credit card machine will have the Apple Pay logo.
It will. Okay.
And here's the thing. Most
Or
places,
it'll have little thingies on it that look like waves. And you know, I'm overseas right now. I have not put out any cash. I've used my Apple Pay for everything from $6 for lunch to train tickets. Overseas is way ahead of the US when it comes to using electronic payment like Apple Pay.
I've got a quick question for you. Do you, using Apple Pay overseas, do you get stuck with the international transaction fees?
No, you do not.
Okay. That's one of the reasons I have a Capital One credit card. Because they don't charge you the, what is it? The using somebody else's currency fees.
Yeah, and better than that, it looks like to me it's a wholesale rate that we're using. And then even better than that, I had lunch today someplace, and within seconds, literally seconds, it told me that the lunch, which showed up as let's see, I think it was 26 pounds or something like that, was $29.08, and I get 2% back on that one. You got to get Apple Pay.
The reason you got 2% back was that it was Apple Pay.
Yep.
Apple Pay. Mhm.
I get 3% back on computer. I bought this computer with Apple Pay, and I got 3% back.
Okay.
So you always say,
I'm probably going to Greece in sometime this summer if they don't have a war over there. And okay, good to know.
Catherine, you had a question?
Yeah, so y'all would say that Apple Pay is a lot better than Zelle or Venmo. I mean, I don't like PayPal, but
Well, keep in mind, PayPal, Zelle, and Venmo, unless you have a card from them, you can't use in the grocery store.
all right.
Apple Pay from your phone can be used in majority of stores, retail stores, so you don't need to have a physical card to use it.
Great.
That being said, Apple does also have a physical card you can get, credit card, that is a very good credit card, but also then it basically lets you use it anywhere because it's a credit card. But
Okay.
the Apple Pay, the nice thing about it is from your phone or your watch, you can basically pay things. You can buy things. It is one of the most secure options available. What it does is it sends a electronic token that has no identifiable information about you. It just basically sends an approval for a certain amount of money to a certain vendor. Can't be used by anybody else. Once it's used, it is done. It's a one-time use. So even if Target has another data breach and that token is in it, it's a totally useless token once it's been used.
And so if somebody pays me through Apple Pay, it goes straight to the bank, or does it? go
Well,
through the-
actually, if they pay, usually it's going to go to the Apple Cash. And then you can choose to send that to your bank, or you can leave it in your Apple Cash account and then use that to make payments to other things.
I see.
In that respect, the Apple Cash is more similar to the Venmo, PayPal type of thing.
Okay. Good, thank you.
And that's where
I have been using Apple Pay for quite some time online, and it's really easy. You just double click your phone when it comes up and it's done. But I tried using it in a store recently and it didn't work. So I learned I had to actually activate it on my phone. I have the credit card. I had to activate it on my phone before it could work in a store. But it now works. And as Ken said, there's always some kind of percentage cash back, which drives my statement crazy. It's never the same as what I've recorded.
the thing with the phone is that it should, when you move the phone towards the credit card machine, automatically detect it and bring it up. Sometimes it doesn't. If you double tap your button, it will bring it up and then it will detect it.
It does now, but I had to activate it.
And
But yeah,
Bill, I'm
so go
sorry.
ahead.
Bill, you say you're going to Greece. One other thing with this Apple
Yeah.
Pay, you don't have to notify them that you're going overseas. I think they're tracking me wherever I am. Truly, they said, don't call us, don't tell us, just keep your phone with you and you'll be fine. And that's what I've done.
Yeah,
Well,
okay.
Keep in mind that they don't have to necessarily track you, but if the transaction location and the phone location is the same place, they know it's legitimate.
George, sometimes when I order stuff off of Amazon using Apple Pay, I click the Apple Pay button and it comes up and it says cannot find it. And then I read somewhere where Apple rotates the CVV code, and sometimes you have to go in and tell Amazon or some other place to use the current CVV code or something like that. Have anybody run into that problem?
No,
I have not.
no.
I don't know, maybe mine's set up wrong then, because I got a message saying they
I've heard-
rotate the CVV code to keep people from spamming the Apple Pay, and that it doesn't do it all the time. It does it once in a while. Though, when I order something off Amazon or some other online store, it can't find the Apple Pay because it says it can't find the CVV code. So I have to go in and tell it what the CVV code is.
Well, now that I've seen that on some sites where they don't store that on purpose to make sure that you're using the legitimate, you have the legitimate card in front of you.
Yeah.
Some places will store everything. Some places will store everything except for that CVV code.
Yeah.
I have a quick security question. When you're using Apple Pay like that, um, uh, for instance, and could somebody steal my iPhone and then take it and use it? And they wouldn't be able to detect that
No.
it wasn't.
No, because you have to approve every transaction. And to
And
do,
I,
you
okay,
need to print the facial ID or the passcode entered in.
okay. Well, on a regular credit card, several times, and this is in the past, but I've been called up by Capital One and said, "Did you just make a transaction in Alberta?" Um, that sort of thing. And of course, I hadn't. But when it's like $100 or something like that, I mean, I can remember those kinds of calls in the past. We just got a use of your card in Alberta, that sort of thing.
Well, I use facial recognition 100% of the time when I use Apple Pay.
Okay.
And sometimes on Amazon, back to your thing, I will get something that says double click to confirm this purchase, but usually I don't even get that. But I've been really happy. What's interesting, a quick aside, there are two places I shop regularly in Brevard that won't take Apple Pay. One is Lowe's and one is Walmart.
Mhm.
Figure
Well,
that one out.
Walmart won't ever, because they have their own competing one
Right,
and they make
Yep.
money, so they're not gonna use anybody else's.
that's right.
Or do
I'm
you
not
have
Google
have
Pay.
credit card in order to get the 2% cash back?
What did
Uh,
she say?
I can't answer that, Catherine, because I've had the card from the get-go. But they do send me a notice that I've gotten X amount back on all my purchases. If it's just Apple Pay, I don't know how you would activate that. I can't answer that part.
Do you know, Ken, if you have to have the credit card to get the 2% cash back?
No, I actually have the credit card, but it's back in Brevard in the safe deposit box because I don't want to
I
use
think
it.
we have a credit card account.
Oh, yeah, you got to have a credit card account. Yeah.
Well, when I buy things off the Apple Store, you know, I have these games, you know, that periodically they sell you tokens for getting more choices and stuff like that. And I've got a credit card on record in my wallet with Apple, but I always get a prompt that if I would use Apple Pay, I would get 3%, you know, regardless of having an Apple credit card or not. 3% is anytime you use Apple Pay, at least for applications that I bought in the Apple Store.
You can set it up so that it automatically uses Apple Pay when you're in any of the Apple Store,
Mhm.
and it just is automatic and you always get your 3%.
Yeah, that's why they keep prompting me. I guess they want me to turn that on.
Do you have to have an Apple card to use Apple Pay?
No, no.
So you
Alright.
can use any other credit card and put that, and then your Apple Pay. Okay, thanks.
Well, actually, it's a
No,
little more
no.
complicated.
No,
It's
you
a
need,
touch-
you need money in the cash account for you to use Apple Pay.
No, you
There
don't.
has to be money on
No,
file somewhere.
You
No, no.
don't.
As long as you have verified credit card associated with the account, you can use Apple Pay. It just
Right.
takes from that account.
So just if I have a regular credit card, I tell Apple that that's the credit card I want the Apple Pay to come from, and it takes the money from that, correct?
Right. Or a bank account. Yeah.
It's really more complicated. First of all, if you use the Apple physical credit card, you lose 1%. So if you go into an Apple store and you pay with your phone, you get 3% back. You pay with the little white Apple card, you get 2% back. Okay.
She was asking if without an Apple card, whether or not you could use Apple Pay.
And the answer is yes, because you see here on my screen how many credit cards I have there. I have 3 already, all on this phone.
Yeah. So basically, Apple Pay is just a means of doing the transaction.
Okay.
Where the money comes from is going to vary depending on how you would do it, whether it be from a bank account, credit card, debit card, or you can use Apple's credit card. It is not right. I do not have Apple's credit card, but I use Apple Pay.
Great, thanks.
I got a quick question for Ken. Hey, how many places other than Lowe's and Walmart do not take Apple Pay?
In Brevard, most places take Apple Pay.
Okay. How about traveling around? I mean, hotels.
Hotels take it, no problem. Now, see, I'll show you something else here on mine. I don't know whether you can see that or not, but that's my train ticket. That's my train ticket from York to London. This is all under wallet on your phone. I mean, you can put anything in there you want to. Paid for the train ticket with Apple Pay, and simultaneously that little ticket came up. And when I got on a train, well, it works a little differently over here. You just hold it in front of the gizmo and the gates open and you get on the train. So it's fantastic.
Bill, one of the things you have to keep in mind is that the transactions for credit cards are not done by most stores. They're done by a third-party company who comes in and provides these stores with the credit card machine. Most of those companies have updated their credit card machines to include Apple Pay.
Okay.
So except for some of the big companies like Walmart that choose to do it for their own, financial reasons, most companies don't care whether they have it or not, in the sense of they're not going to go out of their way to not have it. But if it's something that's offered from this company that's doing the credit card, they're going to jump on it because that increases their market. So most of the mom and pop type places are going to have it because the credit card transaction companies support it.
Okay. Well, final comment from me. I happen to use what is it? A Wells Fargo credit card that gives me 5% back on everything. And because I maximized what I got back a long time ago. And so 5% beats 3% or 2%. But other than that,
Well, actually, Bill, keep in mind a couple of things. 5% doesn't always beat 3% because sometimes the 5% is limited on certain transactions.
okay.
How do they give you your 5%? If it's 5%,
they just reduce it is a pain to try to get the 5%. You have to go in month by month and apply it. And that is a bit of a pain. You're right.
then Apple doesn't go for the miles, doesn't go for you get cash.
Uh-huh.
And that is a nice thing. And you can apply that cash to your bill. You leave it in your cash account that you can then send and receive cash from friends. And
I get an email once a month that says you have accumulated X dollars. But in order to utilize that, you have to go to the website and then apply it in some fashion or other. And it's, I spend 10 minutes or 15 minutes a month applying it. You're absolutely right. It's a bit of a pain.
Yeah. And sometimes the thing is that a lot of the cards don't give 5% on every transaction. It's only certain types of transactions.
Yeah.
So depending on what your spending habits are, you might find that the 3% might actually be more than the 5%.
Yeah, I got to look into it. And in particular for overseas transactions.
Yeah. Let me quickly go through the rest of the Apple Pay and let's move on to this. We're getting a little late. The daily cash hub is basically where you can manage the cash that you earn from these cash backs. Apple Cash is basically similar to the Venmo and Cash App and PayPal type of thing. The verify your identity in apps is very, very nice because once you've verified your identity in the wallet, that verification can be handed off to these apps that need age verification or location verification, basically identity. Motel stay keys can be stored in the wallet, just like the train ticket and boarding passes. But you can also do multi-stay tickets, so it's not just one ticket, you can have multiple ones. Those keys can be added from Safari, so if you've done a reservation, you can add that key right into your wallet. Then migration, so you can basically go from one device to another device and have that key available to you. When you purchase things with Apple Pay, you have order tracking, which is really useful. The merchant tokens I mentioned earlier are unique one-time use tokens, so they're totally useless to anybody once they've been redeemed. You can also pay. This is a new one. You pay multiple merchants in a single Apple Pay transaction. It used to be one transaction per merchant, so this makes it a little simpler. You can basically just do one transaction. The quick access menu. So that one. There we go. Basically, lets you. Basically, just gives you quick access to all the different cards and information that's in the wallet. Top of the account, you can basically replenish your account balances from the Apple Pay account card in the wallet. You have it just basically top up any of those automatically. Okay. There's a lot of neat stuff with Apple Pay. They're making it more robust. They're constantly pushing it to more and more places. I'm not gonna spend too much time on the home app because I'm not sure too many people get into it. But if you do the home automation, home app is crucial. That's where it basically ties everything together, so you can control your lights and your thermostat and all the different aspects of your house. The entry level to this type of thing is much lower than it used to be. You can find internet controllable light bulbs, plugs for appliances that are pretty reasonably priced. So if you want to get into this type of thing, it's actually not too bad. You can also control your security camera footage from this. They've added widgets to the lock screen, make it easier to get into it and take advantage of it. And then the thing that's coming later this year is it's called Matter. It's a new connectivity standard, so that basically it gives you more access to more devices. If you want to get into the home automation, it's a lot of really cool stuff. I think David does a lot of that. If you want to get some input from David, he can give you some really good stuff. I've done a little bit of it, but not recently, so I haven't really played with the new stuff too much yet. It's one of the problems with living in a rental property. You really don't want to put too much money into thermostats and appliances and such. All right. Health is always a biggie for Apple. They've added tracking your medications, which I think is going to be really helpful. So many people have different medications from different physicians, and then they go to physician B and forget to tell them about medications that physician A gave them. That can be potentially dangerous. So very important. Let you add a medication just using the camera on the phone. Reminders, so you can schedule when you're supposed to take your medications. Help you keep that going. Logging, so you have a log of when you took them, what medication. You can get more information about your medications. You can look at interactions between medications. You can basically send out invitations to share your health information with different people. You can choose, what you want to share with who. Gives you a lot of control. And then the deviation notification basically lets you know if you haven't taken your medication on a regular basis, and you can control a little bit of how that managed. But it's also very good for actually, I'm sorry, this is for menstrual cycles. I'm sorry, misread this one. So basically, this is for the women who want to track their menstrual cycle. This gives them information so they can deal with that. All right. This one, Really Fitness, they just finally brought the fitness app for all iPhone users, which is nice. And then we're going to go into family sharing. Family sharing is always very useful. They've Improve the child count setup, which is nice because it was kind of a pain in the rear to deal with. Is a quick start to set up a device that's going to be used for kids. Has screen time requests are now in text messages rather than notifications, which is nice. And then the family checklist makes it easier to go through and see what what's set up for each family member. Just trying to streamline it. They're going to be releasing some CarPlay stuff later this year, or later next year, excuse me, in 2023. And then they've introduced a safety check, help people with in domestic violence situations. Pasteboard preferences, basically, apps need to request permission to copy and paste functions. Once they give them permission, they're good, but it basically makes sure that you don't have things going from one app to another app without your knowledge. Okay. Media streaming improvements, basically they're supporting a lot of non-AirPlay streaming without having to provide Bluetooth controls, which is nice. Expanding where you can send your stuff. Lock hidden and recently deleted folders in your album. If you've hidden a folder, you want it to be hidden, and so there was some views that showed every photo you had, and say you don't want that. And if it's recently deleted, you don't want it there either. So they basically fixed that. And then in security, rapid security response, basically get updates for your operating system for security updates has been streamlined, so it goes faster. Face ID works in landscape as well as portrait. Thankfully, it's about time. Lockdown mode, basically, if you're in a situation, you put it in lockdown mode, it basically locks all the functionality, makes it very hard for anybody to get in. So they're always working on security. Accessibility, I'm not going to go into all these. They've added a lot of neat things. The Apple Watch mirroring is neat. The detection mode and magnifier is for text, which is nice. Live captions is neat. So you can see lots of new things. The nice thing about accessibility is that it addresses people's needs in disabilities, but it also gives you features that everybody can use and take advantage of. Okay. And I think unless somebody has some questions on these, I'm just going to leave these up here. We'll let you look at them, not really go into too much detail on them, because that's a lot of information.
Well, I just took a screenshot of it.
Okay. And then the new iPhone 14, 14 Pro, 14 Pro Max. It is an evolutionary step. A lot of people, a lot of the reviewers have been critical of it because they're going, they're constantly going to the new devices. So they're coming from a 13. A 13 to a 14 basically has a couple of big differences. The camera on the Pro model is a 48 megapixels. It's the first time Apple's had one that deep. It has a 3x optical zoom. I'm trying to think if the 13 had that. It has the faster processor on the Pro model. The regular 14 still has the older chip that the 13 had, so it's not as big of a performance difference. And the reviewers are all like, well, we expect more. But if you have a 10, 11, or 12, this is going to be a nice upgrade. If you're ready, it's a great machine. The people that are going to come to the 14, the vast majority of them are not going to be coming from a 13. They're going to be coming from earlier. So for them, it's a great upgrade. There were a lot of rumors that this was going to be the model that had all this big design change. It didn't. And I think a lot of people were disappointed in that. And that's where you're seeing a lot of the negativity coming from. But sales are booming. The device itself is pretty good. Like I said, it's an evolutionary jump. It's not earth shattering. If I had a 13, I wouldn't be jumping out buying a 14 today. Okay. All right. I think that's it for today. We have any general questions over?
I'd just like to point out something that OSX Daily sent out yesterday. I know that you can restart a hard restart on your iPhone with certain keystrokes and so on. But they've come as iOS 16 now offers the opportunity to call Siri. I won't do that right now, and simply say to your iPhone, restart iPhone, and it will do a hard restart. And in my case, I tried it and it repaired a couple of small glitches when I got it on a restart. So it's fast and it works. It does not work on an iPad.
That would for me at my accident because my phone screen was unresponsive. And once you get to the point where because the phone didn't follow me into my room, so I had to put it in lost mode. Once you put it in lost mode, it is required for you to log off. Well, the screen wasn't responsive, so I couldn't log off. And I didn't remember the key combination to do the hard restart.
Okay. Well, now you have to just call up Siri and say, restart iPhone. It will ask you to confirm that, but it works fast.
Marguerite, were you prompted to get 16 loaded on your phone?
Yes.
I haven't been prompted yet.
Well, I get notifications from MacMost as well as from OS X Daily, and both of them always say Apple has come out with an update for whatever. And as soon as it does, I generally update.
Oh, no, I wait till it shows up on my update. You know, it tells you that there's an
Oh,
update.
I get it
Well,
as soon as it's out.
If you have 15, 16 is not an update, it's an upgrade. It won't be it won't be a typical update. But if you go into software update, at the bottom will be a button to upgrade to 16.
Matt, I'm with you. I've got 15.6 on my
Right.
iPhone.
Let me talk about one feature that 16 gives that is really cool. If you have a picture, you can press and hold on a person in a picture. It lifts them off the background. Basically removes the background completely. If you have an object, same thing. You can take it and just brings it out. And then you can copy, paste it, share it, whatever you want to do with it. It does a really good job. There's only been a couple images I've done where there was just a little bit of artifacts. Most of the time it's crisp and clean. And to be fair, the guy had pretty wild hair. So yeah.
George, to do the hard reset,
Yeah.
you press, first of all, you press the up volume button,
Yeah.
then the bottom. And then you press the one on the side, 3 at once. I mean, 1, 2, 3, you've got about 2 seconds to do it. I just did it last night.
Yeah. Well, I was in the hospital, didn't have any way of looking it
You
up.
didn't- But anyway, no, I intend to use that because I think periodically you should do a hard restart.
Well, my screen was not responding to touch at all. And I was hoping the restart would fix it. And it did, but it took a while to get to that point where I could.
How do I update to 16 on this iPhone?
Go to settings.
Okay.
Go to software.
I'm in settings.
Go to software update, or is it general software updates?
Not on mine.
Well,
Go to general.
go to general first.
Yeah.
Then
that's-
the second one down, software update.
And then at the
Okay.
very bottom,
Well,
it's
It seems
Software update's the
I'm not even on
second one.
15.7.
And 15.7 is what's showing up on mine.
the very
No,
bottom doesn't have a button that says upgrade to 16.
Nope.
No,
Oh, plug into power.
Oh, yeah, wait a minute. Whoa. Down, all the way down to bottom. All the
Yeah.
way down to bottom.
oh yeah, also available.
Yep.
Wow.
Wow. Marguerite, thank you.
There you go, Marguerite. Yeah,
The margarita,
Yeah.
the fact that I kept telling them at the bottom and they missed that part.
yeah. If it's not right in front of us, that's it.
Yeah, the other bottom.
The other bottom.
Actually, it is now 16.0.2.
Uh-huh. Well, I think I'm gonna wait till I plug it in and then I'm gonna do the upgrade.
You
Yeah,
should plug it in.
yeah. Thank you.
Anybody have any other questions?
George, have you heard when the iPad OS 16 is gonna come out? I think I heard it's maybe this month sometime.
I've heard some rumors that we should see it soon. More than likely, we will see some event in October. One of the
I hope
guys,
so.
one of the guys who's supposedly in the know says, "Well, they only have 6 new products. They're probably not going to do an event." It's like, excuse me, 6 products. They will do an event.
Yeah. Well, hopefully by this time, when we get together next month, I'll have my updated Mac Mini and another third-party screen, big 27-incher.
It doesn't make sense for them not to have something in October because they do it too late. It's going to miss the holiday season. And
Right.
they announce it in October. It should be shipping in November. It should be perfect
Right.
time for holidays.
Could you go over the steps again on how to do the hard reset for your iPhone?
You press, you look at your phone, you press the up volume, which is on the
Yeah.
left side, the down volume, and then with
Okay.
your other hand, you press the big on and off button on the other side of the phone.
All right, thank you.
Yeah, 1, 2, 3, and you have to do it in that order and about that speed.
All right, thank you.
All right.
In Terry's absence, I don't know what's going to be on the website or on Facebook. Ed, could you fill us in on what will be on, you handle the Facebook page, correct?
Yes,
For anybody that's forgotten, there are notes on the Facebook as well as on our website after these meetings. And Terry used to put the minutes or the notes from these meetings onto the website. If you're looking for our website address or the Facebook, those are links that are provided in your agenda. So if you can click on that, you can see what's on there. So particularly in Catherine's case, since you're new to this, hopefully there will be something on the website, even though Terry wasn't here today.
Well, I will be uploading the video to YouTube. I'll send that link to Ed to put on the Facebook page.
Okay.
All right. Well,
you.
unless anyone has any other question, I'm sorry. Somebody start. I heard somebody start something. There.
Thank you.
All right. I'm gonna call it a day, and you guys have a great weekend.
Goodbye, everyone.
Thank you, George.
Thank you,
Bye.
George.
Thanks again, George.
You're very welcome.